Hello, hello, hello. It's Monday, December 16, 2024, and not sure exactly everything I want to talk about here, but I haven't posted in a while, so color me inconsistent. Consistently inconsistent. But one thing that occurred to me to talk about is these recent events with the drones, the drone sightings all over the place. Not only in the United States, but also in Western Europe, and like the UK and the EU and all that. I've heard a couple of theories about what these drones are and who is controlling them and what they're doing. And there seems to me two hypotheses that seem the most plausible. Is that one, these drones that have been sighted all over the United States and possibly in Europe are owned and controlled by China. That would be my number one suspect if the drones, in fact, are not ours, and so it's a foreign country flying drones in our airspace and over our military bases and other key locations within the country, would be China. And the main reason why I say that is because China, if you recall, they were caught, I think it was last year or the year before, flying spy balloons. They actually flew spy balloons, those big white balloons, from the northwestern part of the United States all the way down to Florida before it was shot down. And I forget where it was shot down. But apparently, one of them was shot down and some others were spotted, but that we didn't shoot down because they left our airspace, probably after we shot down the first one. And those were definitely Chinese. It was the CCP, Chinese Communist Party, flying those balloons over our airspace to spy on us. And I actually don't blame them for doing that, in the sense that I'm sure we fly at extreme altitudes to spy on other countries. So that's kind of to be expected. But what bothers me is the fact that the so-called Biden administration knew for weeks that was going on and did absolutely nothing to stop it until there was major outrage from the public about it. And, it had been spotted over, in our airspace. And it wasn't until there was major public outrage and demand that the things be shot down that finally Biden and company decided to tell the military to shoot it down. So that's why I think that if these drones are foreign owned and controlled, my number one suspect would be China, because they've flown craft through our airspace before, and our so-called Biden administration did absolutely nothing then to stop it. But the other hypothesis that has been put forward, and I think is very plausible, considering that I used to work in the aerospace industry, the aerospace/defense industry, directly with the military, is this idea that these drones are actually ours, and that it is our military controlling these drones, and they're searching for something. And the hypothesis that I heard recently, and it really is plausible to me, really makes sense, is that if it's ours, if there are drones and our military controlling them, then what they're looking for are these nuclear warheads that have gone missing recently. They were formerly there were warheads and other nuclear devices that were formerly in possession, being possessed by Ukraine back in the 90s, before they made the peace deal with Russia, to where they agreed to be neutral and to give up their nuclear capabilities, and at the same time agree to be neutral with Russia, so that they actually live in peace with Russia. But I guess recently, and I'm not 100% sure if I heard it correctly, but 80 of these warheads and also suitcase nuclear bombs and others that were previously in the hands of the Ukrainians have gone missing. And so now a lot of stuff is coming out that people think that they have gone missing, and some of them may have made their way to the United States and are currently in the possession of terrorist groups within the United States who plan to detonate these devices in major cities at major events or whatever. I don't know that to be 100% true, but again, with the so-called Biden administration and their stupidity, their absolute stupidity and corruption, and the way they threw open our borders, invite the rest of the world to come in here, just let, I think it was 11 million people now in the last 4 years. That's a guarantee that there will be terrorist cells coming into the country, because they're just unvetted. You let everybody in, you invite them in, you call people racist for wanting to secure our borders and to deport all the illegal aliens and keep the terrorists out. And this is the kind of crap that happens. So, with the stupidity and corruption of our current administration, which will be ending within the next 30 days, 35 days, I think it is now, 35 or 34, and their open borders nonsense, it wouldn't surprise me one bit that these sleeper cell terrorist groups were able to smuggle some of these nuclear weapons into our country over the border, and that they're preparing to use these devices in terrorist attacks. I mean, detonating a nuclear bomb, like a suitcase bomb or whatever, in the middle of a major population center like DC or New York or Chicago, that would make 9/11, the terrorist attacks on 9/11, 2001. Can't believe that's been 23 years ago already. That would make that terrorist attack look like peanuts in comparison, in terms of the casualties, the destruction to the infrastructure, and the destruction to our economy. That would change everything. So it would not surprise me one bit if what these drones, if they're not ours, and that what they're doing is they're looking for these devices to prevent, not pretend, but to prevent a nuclear terrorism in the United States. And the other possibility would be China. If it's a foreign actor, China would be my number one suspect, because we've caught them doing that before with the spy balloons. So, as the Chinese would say, may you live in interesting times. We definitely live in interesting times, that is for sure. There are some things about the times we live in today that I absolutely love. You know, the current technology and the advancements in medical science and all that, and especially our current technology, the internet, computers, and all that. And now with the artificial intelligence, I think that's absolutely fascinating, and I make tons of use of that with other things. It's like you're kind of a fool if you don't make use of these free AI resources to help you with certain things. But if I could, I would go back to 1980 or like 82 or something like that. Back to the way it was back then. Although we had the Cold War, the Soviet Union was around. There was the possibility of a nuclear conflict with the Soviet Union at the time, which is now just the Russian Federation. You know, and we had wars going on, like the Lebanese Civil War, the war between Iraq and Iran. Or, yeah, was that Iran? Yeah, Iran and Iraq. So things were not perfect back then either. But the way things were in terms of society, at least here in the United States, if I could go back to then, knowing what I know now, and with the current technology we have, like if I could make it to where, well, I could go back then, I would. Or if I could snap my fingers and make today like it was back then in terms of society and the culture and everything, but with our current technology, I would do it in a heartbeat. But so here's to hoping that we don't experience nuclear terrorism here in the United States. I hope and pray that if those are our drones and they're looking for these nuclear devices that they may be suspecting are in the hands of these terrorist groups that unfortunately the Democrats imported into this country. I hope that they find them and we don't experience that. Because that would be absolutely devastating. So with that, I'll say to all the people out there whom I don't like, and there's quite a few of you, Darwin be with you, and to everybody else, live long and prosper.